Hello and welcome to Post and Courier Spartanburg question and answer session. Thank you so much for joining us today. Let me acknowledge right off the top here that you might hear just a little bit of an echo when we're talking, just a bit of a consequence of the room we're in. So we will try to speak up as much as we possibly can so you can hear us clearly. And Asia and Chris will as well, who I'll introduce in just a moment. But bear with us, just in case you can't hear us, we'll do our very best to make this audio as clear as we possibly can for you. We are joining you today from downtown Spartanburg. We're actually at the USC Upstate George Dean Johnson Jr. College of Business. We wanted to be sure and get together somewhere right here in downtown Spartanburg where we can speak to you and answer some of your questions and tell you a little bit more about both what the Post and Courier is doing, about ourselves, as well as what we're covering and what we're all about. So thank you so much for joining us today. I'll remind you that if you would like to submit questions, that you can do so in the Q&A portion of the screen. So definitely go down there. Let us know if you have any questions as we go along. We will do our very best to answer everything we possibly can in the time allotted. So let me start off a little bit with a little bit about the Post and Courier. It's a family-owned newspaper. Many of you probably know if you've been in South Carolina for a long time. Based down in Charleston, started down in Charleston, family-owned, South Carolina-based, long time invested in this state, founded in 1803. We are driven very much by local coverage and investigative journalism, and over the past few years have expanded across South Carolina. First into Columbia, and then over the last year and a half into Myrtle Beach, and of course the upstate, both in Greenville and now in Spartanburg, which we're very excited to do. One of the things to know about how that works, it certainly doesn't mean that no one else from the Post and Courier writes about Spartanburg, but it means we've got a staff here that is focused on Spartanburg and constantly writing about Spartanburg. So we are excited to do that. A little bit about myself. I've been in journalism for about 25 years now, a little less than 25 years. I've been a managing editor for the past decade. And about a year and a half ago, moved to the upstate to help the Post and Courier expand its offerings in this part of the state. So very excited to do that. Over the course of my career, I've worked in sports, I've worked online, I've worked in news, done just about everything in the business you can. And so very excited to bring all of those experiences here. Before we go any farther, let me introduce the folks who are joining me today. First, I want to go to Chris Lavender, one of our reporters here in Spartanburg. Chris, why don't you tell the folks a bit about yourself?
Okay, I've been a journalist for 18 years. I've worked for newspapers in Maryland, North Carolina, and South Carolina. And I was excited to join Post and Courier Spartanburg this past June. I've had experiences covering education, politics, crime, and an assortment of other areas. But it's just good to be here in Spartanburg.
And then I also want to introduce Asia Rollins, another of our reporters here in Spartanburg. Asia, tell the folks about yourself.
Hello, everyone. So my name is Asia Rollins. I'm from Omaha, Nebraska. I went to school in Hampton University, and I joined the Post and Courier team about mid-August. And so some of the things I cover here are related to child development, education. I cover a lot of nonprofits and focus on some of the things that they're doing, and then also just some of the regular development stories that are happening in Spartanburg.
And we'll get a little bit more into what we're covering and what the future holds for our coverage in Spartanburg as we go along. We have, of course, several questions for you who are listening, and we will get to the ones that you've pre-submitted before this live stream. We'll get to those first here in just a moment, as well as again take anything that is in the Q&A section as we go along. Before though we go into that next step, I do want to put in a quick plug for a couple of things. One would be for a subscription to the Post and Courier. Obviously, everything that we do requires support. It requires finances. We are certainly in the business of serving a community, but it's also still a business. Subscribers make what we do possible. If you go to postandcourier.com/Spartanburg/subscribe, you can see our latest deals, including both a $119 annual subscription and for new subscribers, an offer to view us for 4 months for $4. So both great offers. We hope you'll consider that. We would also remind you that we have a number of free newsletters, including one that's focused specifically on Spartanburg. You can find those if you go to postandcourier.com/Spartanburg and look at the top of the page for the link that says newsletters. You can sign up for any number of newsletters there, and those are free. So we would encourage you to do that. And I want to throw in one more plug for our Investigative fund. And I'm actually going to read this one because one of our, we actually have Giving Tuesday coming up and some other things. The work we do would not be possible without readers and supporters throughout South Carolina and beyond. Support us for Giving Tuesday, that's November 30th, by donating anytime during the 24-hour marathon to benefit the Post and Courier Public Service and Investigative Fund. You can do that by visiting postandcourier.com/donate. That money goes directly toward investigative work throughout South Carolina. So very important. There's lots of information on that postandcourier.com/donate page about where the money goes and what it's used for. So we would encourage all of that. So with all of that said, let's move back on to what you're here for. Let's address some questions. One of the questions we got, we actually had this show up in the Q&A, the live Q&A that we're doing now, but was pre-submitted. Tell us about your commitment to local investigative journalism. Now, we're all three going to answer this because I think it's an important enough question to do so. Chris, why don't I start with you? What does that mean to you, and what's your response to that?
To me, it means our job is to keep public officials accountable, whether it be school boards, county government, city government, or any other municipality in the county, Spartanburg County. Our job is to keep people accountable. And at times we need you also, if you have tips for us to follow, we encourage you to reach out to us to help us keep our officials accountable.
What about you?
To me, investigative reporting is important because it focuses on the truth. And our job as journalists is to put out truthful and impactful stories. And it also builds trust as you and a journalist, as a community resource, but also just as the industry of journalism. And so it's important because it puts out the truth, and that's our job, is to make news that's impactful, but also truthful.
And for those of you who are listening, I'll apologize if you heard a bunch of clicks. I was actually scrolling, so I'll try to do that more quietly next time. You know, local investigative journalism, I really kind of like to take those as two equally important things. Local journalism, which we do every day. We're keeping an eye on the things that happen here, focused on this local area. And investigative, which is kind of a product of that everyday coverage. You can't possibly delve deep into issues affecting the community unless you're there and covering it on a day-to-day basis. And so I think the two go hand in hand. Certainly the local coverage that we do every day and the investigative journalism that is born out of that, as well as how that plays into sort of the statewide approach that the Post and Courier takes in regards to investigative journalism. I think anybody who's familiar for any sort of long-term with the Post and Courier's effort knows that there have been some significant investigative projects over the years. One that's currently ongoing that you've probably seen at least something of is a series called Uncovered, looking at corruption. All of those things are only possible because our reporters are out covering the local community on a regular basis and really looking for issues like that. So what's our commitment to it? Our commitment is absolute to it. It's what we do. It's part of our business. Let's take an easy one quickly. And I'll probably just ask Asia and Chris this, although maybe I'll decide to answer it too. Why'd you become a journalist? What motivates you, Asia?
So what motivates me is just journalism is a field where you can be a voice to the voiceless members of society. And as a journalist, I can put myself in a position where I can tell people's truths, I can tell people's stories. And so that's what really motivates me. I get to meet a lot of different people from all walks of life. I've been here for about 4 months, and each week I meet people from various industries, various professions, and it's fun. It's also, I have to be responsible, but I also get to meet lots of people and just share their stories and their truths.
Chris?
I became interested in journalism because I like telling other people's stories. There's a lot to dig into. There's a lot of fascinating people who have a variety of stories to tell. And I became a journalist because I like meeting new people and I like telling their stories.
All right, let's get to another question. We had one, it was more of a statement, but we'll answer it like a question. And I'm going to phrase it that way for you, Chris. We had a reader. I want to invite you to see the Edward Via College of Osteopathic Medicine, Carolinas. How do I get you to visit the campus? So I'm going to ask this of Chris, but Chris, I'm going to ask you to answer it in a sense for everyone out there. How might they contact us? How to get us to come to an event or come see something you have?
Probably the best way to reach out to us is through email, and you can find each of our emails at postandcourier.com, and also list a telephone number where we can be reached. And if those methods aren't the best for you, you can also reach us on Twitter. Each of us have an account on Twitter, and you can message our Twitter handle.
Yeah, and I would encourage anyone to reach out to us. As I frequently tell people, we can't be everywhere. Obviously, there's 3 of us, but we do try, to watch carefully for things that are going on. If you feel like we're missing something, or you think there's just something we ought to see, definitely reach out and contact us. Another good way would be to subscribe for the newsletters. If you sign up for the Spartanburg newsletter and you reply to that newsletter, it actually comes directly to me. So that's another way to reach out to us. But certainly, a pretty quick search will turn up our email addresses. Each of us is first initial, last name at postandcourier.com. So C Lavender, A Rollins, R Gilchrist. And definitely let us know if there's anything you'd like us to come see, or you have an event going on, or just something of interest to reach out to us with. So we'd encourage you to contact us. I'm going to answer this next one because I'm not going to throw Chris and Asia on camera and make them do it. But we had a question from a reader. We do want to answer every question you send in. Do you feel both political sides are being heard in South Carolina? I don't know the answer to that question, to be perfectly honest with you, other than to say from our perspective as journalists, we do our very best to be even-handed, to make sure we're covering the news. We're not in the business of opinion. We are news reporters and editors, and are always looking to tell the reader, or tell our subscribers what's going on. I think that's really up to the reader and the subscriber to tell us whether they feel like things are being treated fairly or heard in an even way. And obviously, there'll be a wide variety of opinions on that, but that should always be part of the discussion. But from our perspective, we just do our very best to cover the news and not worry too much about, the opinion side of things or how everyone feels about it. So that's probably the best way I can answer your question. It might be a question better asked of somebody who's in the opinion field, but from our perspective, and certainly for us, we're primarily in the business of covering what's happening locally. A lot of those local races are nonpartisan. And so really, I think in a lot of ways, politics, at least in the partisan way, doesn't come into play on some of the local things. So I hope that answers your question. It's probably not fully satisfied, but that's the best I can do. Another question, will you be covering events to share photos online? I'm sort of going to interpret that as, we're going to be taking more photos. Asia, let me throw this one to you.
So yes, at all of our events, anything we cover, we're encouraged to take our own photos. And if there's an event happening in Spartanburg or within Spartanburg County that you feel as though we need to capture it better, if there's something happening at that event that you want a particular photo of, let us know before. Like Brian and Chris said, reach out to us through email, call us, and we'll be happy to set something up.
Yeah, and over time, I think you'll see that we sort of expand how we cover the area visually. We are, even though we're probably close to 6 months into setting things up in Spartanburg, I would definitely say we're not in our full and complete form yet. And so we will be adding things over time. If you see something that we ought to see as well, feel free to send us a photo, let us know about it. But I think over time, we will make the visual piece bigger than what you see us doing now. So keep an eye out for that. Another sort of open-ended question. What do you feel are the primary issues facing Spartanburg and the surrounding area, and how will that affect your coverage? That's a big question, but Chris, why don't I start with you on that?
Primarily right now, growth of development in Citrus County for the last several months, and it's going to continue. The city and the county are experiencing unprecedented growth as far as new housing and new industry coming to the area, and we'll continue to keep track and definitely write stories that talk about the impact that it has and will have on the overall community and months and really years to come.
And kind of echoing off what Chris said, you have all of these new developments and businesses coming in, and another thing is roads and how our infrastructure can handle all the people that are coming here. And so that's something that I'm also interested in staying on top of.
Yeah, I think most everything ties back into growth in one way or another. The various issues that the area and the city are facing all kind of dovetail back into growth and development. So a lot of people moving in, there are a lot of things going up, and how does that affect schools? How does it affect roads? How does it affect infrastructure? How does it affect day-to-day lives of the people who live here? And can we bring that information sort of home to you in a way that helps you to understand what's going on where you live? Those are obviously all big issues. It's already a big area. There's already a lot going on here. There's already a huge amount of development in Spartanburg County. And yet, even though it's already a big place, the growth right now is unprecedented. So we're excited to be here at a time where we can kind of help cover all the things that are going on. If you go look at postandcourier.com/Spartanburg, you'll see probably 6 of our last 7 or 8 headlines all have some sort of big development or big change coming to the area. So I'm excited to be a part of that, and it's frankly it's an exciting time for Spartanburg and the Spartanburg area, and really the wider upstate as a whole. Question from a reader asking about, and again, I'm going to take another one a little bit diplomatically here, but and try my best to answer your question about seeing, and we'll say, I think it's fair to say a national trend of newspapers growing smaller and covering fewer local stories. The question actually got cut off. I think the question from the reader was a little too long for the box she was typing in, but I took it to ask, what steps is the Post and Courier doing to either work against that trend or to do something different? And I think it would go back to what I said earlier, which is we are family owned, we are privately held, and all of our owners and all of our stakeholders are here in South Carolina. that is a very significant difference than what you might see from other places. We're very fortunate in that sense. I've met the people who own the company. I know that they live here. Some of the board members attached to the Post and Courier live in the upstate. Even sat in a few living rooms with folks who have a vested interest in the Post and Courier. And they're all close. And so I think because their lives are impacted by the news coverage, it kind of gives everybody more skin in the game. And so been very proud and pleased to see the Post and Courier expand across South Carolina to do its very best to not only maintain the coverage that exists, but expand it. And I think we all hope, and it's certainly part of why I'm here, that we can continue that over time. I will add the extra caveat, though, that this is an area that needs more coverage than just the three of us can provide, or even just the Post and Courier can provide. And I would encourage you to support journalistic efforts across the upstate. It's a growing area, and frankly, we need as many journalists as possible covering it. So, certainly support us, but I would say, support anyone who's doing their best to cover this area in a way that, like Chris mentioned earlier, holds folks to account and make sure that keeping an eye on things. So, hope that answers your question. That's probably the best I can do. If you want to talk more about that, let's get lunch sometime. We'll have a good long conversation about the news industry, which I've again been a part of for about 25 years and have certainly seen the trends over the years. So, but we're doing our best, from that family-owned perspective to keep the coverage high and to expand it. We've got a handful of questions coming in. So let's, including one who says the sound quality is very poor. We're going to do our best to talk even louder than we are already. In fact, let me pull this a little bit closer. And apologies if you can't hear this. One thing that we have been promised is that we'll take this video after and we will amp the audio up as much as we can. So if there's any answer you don't fully understand, we will make sure to post this on our website with the volume as high as we can possibly get it. And again, I apologize for anyone who can't hear us clearly. Let me take an easy one here off the top. Do we have a physical office in Spartanburg? At this time, no, we do not. Now, I will say, obviously, over the last 18 months, everyone has worked from wherever they possibly could anyway. It's been certainly an adjustment for a lot of businesses. I would say in a lot of ways, journalism was actually better equipped to handle that than most, because I think many of us were already very comfortable with working remotely. So for now, we do not have a physical office here in Spartanburg. I would not say it's off the table for the future, but at the moment, we work from wherever makes sense, whether that be USC Upstate or a coffee shop or a fast food place or our homes or our cars occasionally. I've edited more than one story with my laptop propped up on the steering wheel. And frankly, and this is one of the things I've said for many years, I've long been a proponent of journalists being out of the office as much as possible. And the reason for that is news doesn't happen in the office. You can't see anything that's happening in the office. There's no breaking news at your cubicle. And so, being out in the community, being mobile, I think it actually benefits our coverage. That said, we understand the importance of a physical address and a sense of permanence, and it's certainly something that's on the table and that we'll consider in the future. Will you be covering the local arts scene? Asia, what do you think? We haven't talked about this, so I just completely dropped that up.
Yes, I will definitely be covering the local art scene. I've done some stories in the past about local artists, but yes, I will be covering that. And if you have any ideas, you can email me, call me, we can chat about it. So I would love to do that.
Yeah. kind of like I said earlier, we're always open to story ideas. If you have things you feel like we ought to be covering or that we may have missed, let us know. Send us an email. But certainly, and again, factoring in that there's three of us at the moment. We know that there's a significant interest in the arts, and we'll be keeping an eye on that. And hopefully, over time, you'll see that coverage topic expand. Let's see. We have one question here that's not really a question, but for the person who asked about connecting with Converse, we will do that. And Wofford and some of the others. Some of that we've already done. It encouraged us to reach out to the communication offices of some local colleges and schools. We've done quite a bit of that. Chris has obviously been reporting on the Spartanburg community already, but we will definitely, if there's anybody we haven't reached out to yet, we'll do our best to connect with all of those. I'm going to ask this next one, both of Chris and Asia, because I think it's important enough. And I think there's a lot of ways we can answer this question. How will the Post and Courier give a voice to the young population that has a plethora of news options? How will you make yourself relevant? Chris, let me drop that one on you unprepared.
I think what we need to do is go to where the younger generation is. We need to connect with them where they're already at. And determining that, I think it's fluid because there's so much change in the world and also just where the younger generation is going. So we eventually just have to continue to work to identify where they're at and meet them where they're at, which it changes a lot. But we need to stay on track and just identify those areas where we need to track that.
Asia, you're closer in age to the young population than I think it's obvious Chris and I are. How would you answer that question?
I would say just meeting younger people on different media platforms. Social media, there's so many ways that younger people are on various media platforms. And I feel like as journalists, that's our job, to just meet people on those media platforms and be accessible and reach young people in a way that makes sense.
And it is probably is a good place to mention, since you mentioned social media. You can find us on Facebook at PC Spartanburg. So definitely check us out there. We're also on Twitter. We're on Instagram, although the Instagram account's a shared account with all of the Post and Courier offices. So if you are on social media and you're interested, do a search for us. We should be there. Let's see, what else do we have here? Question here about who's the best contact to work with regarding higher education. Honestly, just email any of us. We all delve into that at some point, or all of us. That would be a good option as well. Don't feel like you have to try to guess which reporter and editor. You can email all three of us, and we will. When we put this video up online, we'll make sure our email addresses are attached to that as well. But again, first initial, last name at postandcourier.com. So never hesitate to contact all of us at once. We don't mind that at all. A lot of times we're going to shoot each other messages after and talk about it anyway. So definitely do that. I think we've covered all of them. Again, a lot of the questions were about communications. Definitely reach out to us. I cannot encourage that enough. Oh, good. Here's one more. How about having, I'm glad you asked this, Alice. How about having a meet and greet event so local people can meet you? That was actually what we intended with this originally. With all the things going on with pandemic concerns and other things, we felt like it was probably the wrong time right before the holidays to try to do something like that, but that's definitely in our plans. We would much rather meet you face to face and have an in-depth conversation and have you able to talk back to us as well. So stay tuned for that. We are definitely still going to do that. Just not sure when yet. In the meantime, if you happen to bump into any of us out on the street, say hi. We're used to that. So, but yes, we will definitely have some sort of in-person meet and greet event at some point. And frankly, part of the reason why this got delayed as long as it did was we kept hoping we would be able to arrange something that everyone would be comfortable with. But that's still on the books for sure, and we'll let you know when we can arrange that. Probably something outside, which might mean in the spring, but we'll see. We'll see. So stay tuned for that. All right, I think that we have covered all of the questions. We will try to do another one of these again here before too long, even if we can't do a meet and greet in person. Hopefully we'll do that next, but if not, we'll try to do another online Q&A. You can also occasionally catch us on Post and Courier's Beyond the Headlines series. We should have another one of those coming up. We have one more question pop in. Somebody getting right under the wire here. We'll let's see. So I think the one question that we've got here, I'm going to try to interpret it based on what the person is asking. I think the question is about whether we're planning to have any sort of printed edition up here in Spartanburg, as opposed to what we are now, which is a digital subscription model. I will say it's always on the table. It's something we've looked at. There's a lot of things that go along with a printed edition, including making sure that you can deliver it in an economical way and provide that for a good price. For right now, our plan is to be a digital only product in Spartanburg, but I would say that's never, the print thing is never something that's far away from the discussion table. Obviously, the Post and Courier has had a printed edition in Charleston for a long period of time. We know how to do that. We're aware of what it takes. For right now, we'll be digital only in Spartanburg. If that changes, we will shout it from the rooftops. So I hope that answers your question there. If it doesn't, email me at rgilchrist@postandcourier.com. Happy to try to address as much as we possibly can. So wrapping up, we want to thank USC Upstate for providing this lovely spot with a nice view behind us. There is a leaf blower going now, but I would guess the audio quality is bad enough you're not hearing that either. And again, we apologize for that. Let me reiterate that we absolutely cannot be here and do what we're doing without paid subscriptions. Please do me a favor, go check out postandcourier.com/Spartanburg/subscribe. Just take a look at the deals. If you don't like that, subscribe to our newsletters. I'll be in your inbox, and you can, make an assessment then at that point. But for sure, at least give it a consideration. Be sure to visit postandcourier.com/Spartanburg often. We're updating it daily. And I think that's all we have for now. So on behalf of Chris and Asia, we'll see you soon. Have a great day. Thank you.